Hey, it's Tom. As someone who's interested in neurolinguistic programming or NLP, I hope that you are constantly looking at all the incredible opportunities there are for you to learn and to begin to pattern and search for excellence. There are literally strategies and ideas, distinctions that other people have discovered or by chance developed, came across, who cares, but that allows them to be able to do things in a superior or far more effective way than you may be able to. And one of the areas that you have for your greatest development is watching TV. So, what do I mean by that? Well, a lot of people, if they're reading traditional personal development books or the latest thing that's come out on somebody's blog, they're saying you need to be like Elon Musk, you need to be like Bill Gates, you need to be like, Jeff Bezos. And this idealized view that these individuals are somehow perfect, without flaw, and everything works great in their life. And in order for you to have their success, you need to be up at 5 a.m. You need to read like Bill Gates does, always carry a sack of books with you and constantly be reading and blah, blah, blah. All of those behaviors that Elon, that Bill, and that Jeff Bezos demonstrate make sense and are useful for them. They may also be useful for you. But don't mistake this notion that there is a formula that is universal, that if you follow this one formula in the context of someone else's life, that you too will replicate the same results, because you have no idea where they started from, what resources they've got, what they were doing when they were on their way up, not when, quote, they're super successful, billionaire status and all the rest of it. Why don't you begin to start with the resources and advantages that you already have with where you're at? And as you do that, constantly be looking to improve, to optimize, to get better for yourself. And along the way, when you are looking at people who are in media or elsewhere who are, quote, famous or very successful, you can begin to look for and pay attention to strategies or patterns of excellence that, if you adopt it and try it out as an experiment, could be tremendously useful for you. So in the context of watching TV, many people go, oh, I watch too much TV. Last survey I saw said something like the average, I believe it was based on an American survey, the average American watches between 7 and 9 or 11 hours or something of TV per day. That's a heck of a lot of TV. Now, whatever amount of TV or movies, Netflix, Amazon, etc., Prime that you watch, whatever you're doing with that, that's cool. What I'd like you to do is that as you're watching that, constantly be paying attention for. As you're enjoying it, you're going to be watching it. It's going to be, hopefully, if it's good, holding your entertainment. But as you're doing that, just notice for things, patterns of how different people in those stories, those dramas, have dealt with different types of problems. There's always going to be a situation of conflict in many of, certainly in the action movies. What kind of strategies have they employed? What were the traits or attributes of the different characters? And how, or should I say, what consequences did that generate for them in their story arc throughout the movie or the show that you've been watching? As you do this, you're going to notice that, hey, there are some components or aspects that you could try on and use in your own life. The other night, I was watching a movie, I was flicking through, it was a Friday night, flicking through Netflix, and I think I was flicking through Amazon Prime as well. I think I found it on Prime, but I was flicking through looking for something new and different to watch. And I came across an old movie, Untouchables, The Untouchables, with Kevin Costner and the late Sean Connery. And it's a really, really good movie about Chicago mob and Al Capone, who's actually played by Robert De Niro. And in the movie, there's the whole story of, in this case, Robert De Niro's character, Al Capone. He's running the situation in Chicago, and the officer, played in this case by Kevin Costner, from the Treasury is brought in. He's got to figure out, how do I take this guy down? And he quickly discovers, the police are corrupt, etc. And he's got to bring in his own team. And he finds a good cop. And that good cop is played by Sean Connery. And there's this wonderful moment where Sean Connery has turned down Kevin Costner to join his team, his squad, to take down Al Capone. So they have a meeting in a church. And in this video, you're going to see a beautiful example of a strategy that you could begin to apply to your own life if you had this level of commitment to your life.
You said you wanted to know how to get Capone. Do you really want to get him? You see what I'm saying? What are you prepared to do?
Everything within the law.
And then what are you prepared to do? If you open the ball on these people, Mr. Nash, you must be prepared to go all the way. Because they won't give up the fight until one of you is dead.
I want to get Capone. I don't know how to get him.
Want to get Capone? Here's how you get him. He pulls a knife, you pull a gun. He sends one of yours to the hospital, you send one of his to the morgue. That's the Chicago way. And that's how you get Capone. Now, do you want to do that? Are you ready to do that?
What are you prepared to do? And in your own life, when you look at the things that you want to accomplish and do, be honest with yourself, be candid with yourself. What are you prepared to do? Because when you come up against a challenge or a situation, and when you've given it your best and you're still not getting the outcome you want, do you give up? Do you stop? Do you go, well, I couldn't do it? Do you do the pattern that's demonstrated by large groups of people, which is you find a story, a narrative, and you go and you get into that little cubby hole and you say, this is the reason, and you come up with your because? Or are you willing to do what's necessary? Are you willing to be effective? Many people prefer to be right than to be effective. And I would invite you, as you're watching things on TV, to look for effective ways to be able to get more of the kind of outcomes that you want. You'll have thousands, tens of thousands of hours of, I'm sure at this stage, if you're an adult in your life, where you have watched movies or dramas or various shows where you're seeing strategies that other people have used being effective. You've seen things that haven't worked. You can begin to notice, for you don't have to be an NLP wizard to be able to figure out what worked in a specific context and how you could take on that idea and what would happen in your life if you really took on the kind of commitment that Kevin Costner and Sean Connery and others demonstrate in that movie to go after a goal that was really important for your life.